what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So the prejudging for the Arnold Classic South America just wrapped up, and we've got a pretty definitive top three here. And this is the top three that we kind of expected going into it. These are the guys that we've been talking about the majority of this time. GoodVito, Rafael Brandao, and Tonio Burton. So no matter what with GoodVito, this was a really solid pro debut. He was a solid top three here. We don't know yet where he's going to land. But for the majority of this, they did keep Rafael in the middle. At the very end, they switched Rafael and Tonio and put Tonio in the middle, which might suggest that Tonio is looking at second. But Rafael was in the middle most of the time. And I would say that what really impressed me about Rafael is his size. GoodVito is kind of this guy that's supposed to be this mass monster, this freak. And honestly, throughout the upper body, Rafael looked bigger and fuller than GoodVito, especially in the chest. And what I was talking about with GoodVito going into this, not really having those, deep striations in the chest and shoulders. If you really pay attention when they hit the most muscular, if you look at him next to Rafael, Rafael's got a much fuller chest. And when Rafael hits that most muscular, you can see really deep striations in the chest that GoodVito just doesn't have. So in the upper body, especially the chest, I think that he has a pretty distinct advantage over GoodVito because Rafael, to me, in a lot of those poses, and poses like the side chest too, you could see it, the striations and fullness in Rafael's chest. Very impressive. Now, from the back is also interesting. If you pay attention when they turn around, I think GoodVito has the best lower body in this lineup, whether it's from the front or the back. From the front, crazy separated quads, huge quads. From the back, I think he had the most dialed-in glutes, the most dialed-in hamstrings, and his legs also look massive from the back. But the upper body from the back is a different story. I feel like GoodVito has a really weird back double bicep. His lat spread looks okay, but it looks like he's lacking some kind of thickness and density in his back that the other two guys have. But conditioning-wise, GoodVito looks to be maybe the tightest of the three. I think Rafael here was a little bit off. I think he was a little bit softer than he was at the Arnold Classic Ohio, especially from the back. I mean, you can see it in his glutes and hamstrings next to GoodVito. But even with the crazy lower body that GoodVito has, I really have a hard time seeing him winning either of the back shots. Because his upper back just looks his lats just look off, especially in that back double bicep pose. So even as freaky as GoodVito's legs are, the size that he has in his upper body doesn't really seem to compare to Rafael, because Rafael has this full, thick chest that has deep striations. I think Rafael even looks a little bit more aesthetic than GoodVito, even though GoodVito has this crazy V-taper. Another thing that I noticed, and I kind of noticed this when GoodVito won his pro card too, is GoodVito's tan is kind of weird. It's kind of an off color. Whereas with Rafael, I feel like his tan was like perfect. He had the perfect color for his physique. And it sounds like nitpicking, and it sounds like a minor thing. But I think that's something that was really working to Rafael's advantage. Your eyes were drawn to Rafael, and I think his tan, his color was part of that. He had a really good tan, where GoodVito's was maybe a little bit too dark, kind of off. It didn't look like he had enough of the shine on his physique. He didn't really pop with that tan. And then talking about Tonio looked about how I expected him to look. He looked really good here, really balanced, really complete. I kind of expected him to be a little bit tighter. And initially, when I watched the individual part, before the callouts, when they came out and did their individual routines, I feel like I was most impressed by GoodVito because he had kind of this freak factor to him. But then seeing them all three together, I feel like Rafael kind of stands out to me. They kept him in the middle. I feel like he might be ahead. I think Rafael is probably in the number one spot right now, even though he was softer, even though he was a little bit off, because I was just kind of thinking about those poses with the chest and the roundness and Rafael's upper body, then the back poses. I feel like he does beat GoodVito pretty decisively because of that. And even the side shots, like the side chest and the side tricep, Vito kind of lacks that fullness in his chest, and Rafael has it really distinctly. And then based on the fact that they moved Tonio into the middle at the very end of the call out, They were probably they probably did it more so to compare Vito and Tonio because Vito was on the end. And Tonio's probably looking at second right now after prejudging. That seems to be the way that they move them around. I don't think it means that Tonio is in the lead. I think Rafael probably is. And Vito's probably looking at third. So if I had to predict this based on how these call-outs went, I'd say Rafael first, Tonio second, and GoodVito third, which is still huge for GoodVito for this pro debut. But I guess it could change at finals tonight if GoodVito tightens up and Rafael looks a little bit softer. I think Rafael started to tighten up because he came out, he was the very first individual routine. And I thought Rafael looked pretty soft in the individual routine compared to how he looked at the Arnold. But I feel like he tightened up in these comparisons. And I just feel like he may have done enough to win. And I think, you know, surprisingly, he looked really big here. Like I said, GoodVito was supposed to be the freak, supposed to be the mass monster. And Rafael is the guy that gets criticized for not being big enough or looking small or getting out muscled. But next to GoodVito and Tonio, Tonio is also kind of a smaller guy. Rafael looked big, full, still looked aesthetic. He was still in relatively good condition. I'm not going to say it like, it's not like he was totally off here, but just in the back, in the glutes and hamstrings and the lower back a little bit, you could see he wasn't as tight as the Ohio show. But I feel like he probably did enough to win here, and he's got kind of the home field advantage. He's the only Brazilian in this top three. Even though GoodVito lives there, he's not a native Brazilian. But I'm very curious to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I want to see your top three predictions for the Arnold Classic South America down in the comments. Did you think GoodVito did enough to win? Like I said, in the individuals, I was most impressed by GoodVito just because of the freak factor. But seeing them next to each other, I just kind of felt like there were certain points of GoodVito's physique where you could clearly see, you could kind of pick him apart a little bit. And I talked about that when he did the posing of his lower body at the press conference. I was like, yeah, GoodVito's known for having these crazy quads. That's like his signature trademark body part. It's like his kind of ace up his sleeve. But when the upper body doesn't quite match, like the chest, like the back, like the triceps, it can kind of create an imbalance in the physique, and it can make him easier to pick apart. So while I do feel like he had the best legs by far in this top three, front and back, hamstrings, quads, glutes, very crazy, freaky legs, I think when you see him next to two more balanced guys like Tonio and Rafael, it kind of it makes his physique easier to pick apart. It kind of it demonstrates the imbalance, especially with the upper body. And like I said, as you rewatch these comparisons, look at his back double bicep, GoodVito's back double bicep. Look at his back lat spread. Look at his most muscular next to Rafael and the lack of striations in the chest, the lack of fullness in the chest. Look at the side chest next to Rafael. The lack of fullness in the chest, the lack of striation in the chest, even kind of the lack of fullness just from the side in general. So when you think about it like that, if you ignore the fact that he has the best legs in the lineup, GoodVito, you can really pick apart the front, back, and side poses for GoodVito next to Rafael. And with Tonio, we didn't get to see him next to GoodVito as long, but it's kind of the same thing. I talked about with Tonio going into this show. He's very complete, very proportional, very balanced, so he's a little bit more difficult to pick apart than GoodVito was here. And then based on how they move Tonio, that's why I feel like he's probably looking at second. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss the finals coverage tonight. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.